Okay, so let us continue in Genesis. We are now on chapter 21. Let's see how long this goes. Sarah bears Isaac. He is circumcised. Promises to Abraham preserved through Isaac. Hagar and her son cast out of Abraham's household. The Lord saves Hagar and Ishmael. Abraham and Abimelech deal honorably with each other. Okay, there's quite a bit going on in this chapter, so let us get to it. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. Okay, very simple stuff there. Lord promised that in 1 year Isaac would be born, and he was born. So, no, they do make the note that he was 8 days old when he was circumcised, because that was the covenant. And now Abraham is 100 years old, so this is 25 years after they left Haran to go into Egypt, and 14 years after Ishmael was born. So, verse 6. And Sarah said, God hath made me to laugh, so that all that hear will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age, and the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Okay, so not only was Sarah able to bear a son she's 90 years old because she was 10 years younger than Abraham. So not only is she able to have a son, but as it says, given children suck, meaning she was nursing him, she was breastfeeding him. Even in her old age, God blessed her exceedingly here. Verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. Now, there's a couple of things here. Now, stepping back first of all, weaned, that means he was no longer being nursed by his mother. He was eating solid food. Back in this time, that was probably around 2 years old. So now he's weaned. Abraham throws a party to celebrate that his son has survived being 2 years old. And Ishmael is seen to be making fun of him, picking on him, being mean. He was kind of bullying Isaac. And so Sarah says, no, she needs to go. Her and her son need to go, so they'll leave Isaac alone, because Isaac is the heir. But Abraham loved Ishmael. Ishmael was his son. He's his 14-year-old son. Right now, his oldest. He's lived with him for 14 years. And now Sarah is saying, get rid of him. This had to have broken Abraham's heart. But let us continue. Verse 12. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, in all that Sarah hath said unto thee. Hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away, and she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went, and sat down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. Now, I want to point out one thing here, is that we read this, and it sounds like Abraham, he gives him a crust of bread and a little bit of water and tells him to get lost. I don't think that was the case. He was kind of like when Lot and Abraham separated. Lot went to his land. I think Abraham is sending Hagar to another place. He's not just kicking her out into the wilderness. He's sending her to another location where she can live, where there should be water. Probably sent her was possibly sent her back to where he had stayed before, to where there were some servants of his, because he had many servants, he had many herds. He probably had some herds out in this area, in the area of Beersheba, and he was sending her to be with them. But she got lost on the way. This is what I think is most likely. It does make any sense that Abraham would just kick him out into the desert. He had a plan, but they got lost on the way. Okay, verse 17. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And you'll note here, I do note, Hagar was weeping, but it was Ishmael's prayer that was heard. I find that interesting. Just a little note there. Verse 19, And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. So here we go. God preserves Hagar and Ishmael becomes a great nation. There was a well. Now, this could be just a natural spring. It could also be a man-made well. I think that God was pointing to her, this is where Abraham was sending you. You're here. You found it. If you just go a little bit over here, you'll find where Abraham was telling you to go. So that's what I think. But he became an archer. I find that interesting. He became a wanderer in the wilderness. He's not keeping herds. He's a hunter. I'll also say in many apocryphal works, or at least, again, going back to the book of Jasher, since I do enjoy the book of Jasher, there are stories of Abraham. He didn't just kick him out and never saw him again. He would go and visit them. He sent them to Beersheba, and then he would go and he would visit them. When he took his tour of all of his herds around the countryside, he would stop by and visit Ishmael and Hagar. Now, I do want to say this. I will end this video here with this one story, because I do like this one story. This is from the book of Jasher, and I can't remember the details of wording, but I do like the story, so I'm going to share it with you. And that was that Abraham came out to visit Ishmael one day on his rounds, But when he came out, Ishmael was not home. He had gone out hunting. And Ishmael's wife and a number of his children were there. And Abraham came up to the tent. He asked if Ishmael was there, and the servants came out and told him that Ishmael wasn't there. And so he asked, is there anybody here that can, tend the horse, give me a little food before I head on my way? And he got a message back from Ishmael's wife that she was just not up. She didn't feel like it. He needed to leave because she just didn't feel like entertaining that day. Which, at the time, was a huge insult. When a traveler, especially your father or father-in-law, comes, you are supposed to give them something to eat and a place to rest for a short time before they continue on. This was common decency, common courtesy. The fact that she didn't do it showed that she was not a good woman. She didn't know how to welcome, how to give the hospitality of the day. So Abraham leaves a coded message with the servant. It says, I can't remember what the message was. I'll have to see if I can look it up and put it in the comments below. But he leaves them the coded message, and when Ishmael comes back, he gets the message from the servants, and he realizes what his father is saying, because his father is telling him, this isn't a good wife. She's not good for you. And so he realizes, my father was not treated well by her. I need a new wife. And so I don't think he exactly divorced her, but he separated from her. He no longer lived in an intimate relationship with her. And he took an additional wife. And a while later, Abraham comes back to visit again, and once again, Ishmael is out hunting. But this time, his new wife comes out personally, offers him food, dresses a calf for him, and gives him water, washes his feet. He's able to sit down under a tree for a little while. She feeds his horse, all the common courtesies of the day. And when Abraham leaves, he leaves another coded message for Ishmael. And when Ishmael gets back and he receives the message, he understands that Abraham is saying, this woman is a good wife. And the reason I like this story is because it shows that Abraham didn't abandon his son. Ishmael was still his son, and he still went out, and he still gave him fatherly advice. He still looked out for his son, even though he could no longer have him living with him in his household. He still looked after his son. And I like that. Now, we will finish chapter 21 in the next video.